So we've got a different episode today, but I'm stoked about it. You know, we've been really busy this last month or so. I've had tons of stuff going on in church. Grahm is busy, like absolutely rocking his senior year of high school. Did something pretty cool a couple of weeks ago. I'll show a quick clip right now. And we'll pop the rest of that on the back end of this episode. But this is an interlude. Grahm and I and my wife, a couple other friends, we went to Dallas a couple weeks ago and saw Dead & Company, which is the remaining members of the Grateful Dead and John Mayer. And we recorded a special episode as we were driving, talking about where we have come to at this point in time in the story of Judges. Because where we go from here on out in Judges is for some reason radically different. We actually had lunch yesterday just to talk about what this looks like. But this is a special interlude where we kind of catch up to all the things we've seen, that we've discovered. There's also something else that I want to let you know about. The Bible is Metal is now a podcast. You can find it on Spotify and on the Apple Podcast Store. We found out for a lot of folks, they prefer an audio version of this. So the first 3 episodes of The Bible is Metal from this summer are up already, and we're going to start adding another one every few days until every single thing is caught up, probably within the next 2 weeks. And so, Chad, thanks for being part of The Bible is Metal. It's awesome. If you want to get one of our sweet Bible is Metal stickers that you might have seen floating around, the best way is to hit me up on Instagram at Rev Chad Brooks. But that's enough housekeeping, like pre-show stuff. Let's get on with the content for this week. Thanks for hanging out with The Bible is Metal.
How unfortunate that would be. We missed the Grateful Dead concerts. We're trying to have a talk about the Old Testament in a Whataburger parking lot in Longview, Texas.
Travel vlog.
No.
What's up, guys? Bible is Metal travel vlog.
Hey, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. So, Grahm, why do you think it's appropriate that The Bible is Metal is going to see the Grateful Dead?
I don't know. We have this big novelty of just doing things that would sound funny to tell the congregation, like, me and my pastor, we're going to go see the Grateful Dead this week.
Did your teachers kind of, did you tell?
I did. I told a couple, and they were just like, "Oh, that's nice."
They also know me.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah.
Okay.
So we had a YouTube comment, or I had a YouTube comment on that video that you shot when I did the office tour, and somebody said the Bible is metal. Is that some sort of worldly attempt to reach the younger people?
Yeah. How do you do, fellow cool kids? Yeah. That's what it is. You see, they cracked our code. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah. It was so let me ask you this. I want to get, it's like, welcome to the interlude.
Welcome.
We're not going to talk about a Judge's story this week. We're en route to go see Dead & Company.
Yes.
And Meredith, my wife's in the back. She's trying to hide from the camera. But what we're going to do the interlude is just kind of talk about, like, we're in an interlude. We're about to enter into the fun part of Judges.
Yeah, it just totally drops off now.
Yeah. And so my thought was, since we got Grahm we're in the truck for 4 hours, to just do a video of kind of at this stopping point where we're at right now about that. So going back to that kind of previous comment of that person saying, I'm genuinely interested. And you know, there's like YouTube trolls in like Christian YouTube world.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're
everywhere.
But like, why do you think the Bible is metal? Because when I brought this up to you last spring, your response was, "Oh my goodness, yes." It's like when I say like the Bible is metal, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think when we talk about the Bible is metal, it's all about just like not being what you expect, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just this big thing that we have going on. You know, it's just like when you hear about the Bible, You think about just like big mega church talking about, oh, Jesus is love, right? His hands on you, healing you, everything like that. But then when we start going into it, you just get into the Old Testament, and there's just people getting stakes driven through their heads. I mean, just there's concubines, there's Samson ripping apart lions. I mean, it's all about just not being what you expected.
Yeah. I think that to me, like when I hear that phrase, I remember like there was like a legitimate Christian like metal community 20 years ago of music that I was really into, and those people talk about they're just the dark realism of life is there, especially in the Old Testament.
For sure.
And I think that I look back at the people who we've jived and engaged with on the live feed or afterwards on the stream over the last few months. Like there's something to just that honest humanity that happens through these stories. But I feel like we've actually, especially with most of them, we're able to kind of get into like legitimate, real spiritual conversation stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not just the shock factor, but
it's in there for a reason. It's in the book for a reason.
Yeah. What is so we read Judges together last year, and I remember I told you like this is gonna be crazy.
Yes.
Like why? Like if you have your choice now, are you gonna be reading Old Testament kind of stuff, or are you gonna be going into like Paul and all of the like that kind of thing?
Personally, I would rather read the Old Testament stuff because one, I just think I think it's super important to just dig into the parts of the Bible that it's kind of the road less traveled, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's real. It talks about, it addresses just the suffering and the bad things that happen, in our reality. And I think it's super important to just see how the Bible goes over these themes and how you can see how God is in all of it, regardless. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to delve into. I would rather be diving into the Old Testament stuff, especially right now. We read, before we read Judges, we read through a bunch of the letters in the New Testament.
Did Mark.
We did Mark all the way through several times we did Mark all the way through. And
I think that there's, and especially when I think about the Old Testament, like I had you probably haven't seen it, but I had a blog post come out today where I kind of dug into some of the stuff I've talked about the last few weeks in Sunday mornings in James, but I dug into the history of Jerusalem some, and how it makes the Jesus story make so much more sense when you understand how Jerusalem worked. And I think for us to understand the world of Jesus, we have to understand the Old Testament. We have to understand that story of brokenness and fall and exile. The story is there. I mean, this might be a future season of Bible is Metal, but the story of the fall of Jerusalem by the Babylonians is nuts. I mean, nuts. And I think that we have to realize that at some point in time, God's people decided we need to get all these stories together, and it's for a reason. And the reason isn't so we can just have these stories. Mm-hmm. The reason there's a larger thing they're trying to talk about. And I think that, Judges is just this prime example of just spiritual anarchy.
Spiritual anarchy.
Yeah. So what's been, as we're interluding, and we're about to enter into, the last two laps of Judges. Mm-hmm. Two stories about two Levites.
Yep.
Up until this point, everybody's been named.
Of course.
Everybody has actually led things. Like, what story out of what we've covered so far is the one that you really just kind of think about the most?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I'd say I think about Samson the most, honestly. Just because of like last time we talked about how, Samson is literally just an example of like refusing to be distinct. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's such a morally gray character at best, like we talked about, And it's just really interesting to like ponder and think about just the dynamic of that. How you've got this man who channels the power of God, but is not a great man at all. It's something really weird to just think about. You know what I mean?
You know, Jesus had this condemnation of the Pharisees when he talked about them. It's like, you're so focused on the outside of your pot being clean, but the inside is filthy.
Yeah.
I think the Samson story is a great example of.
I would 100% agree with that.
I never thought. We talked about Samson. It took 2 episodes. We talked about Samson a lot, and I just never thought until now. This idea of him just continuing to deny the power and ability that God gave him, but also then the fact that it was still there.
Yeah.
Like he had it this whole time, regardless of what, personal jankiness was going on in his life. So I think mine, I really, really, I liked the Jephthah story a lot.
I like the Jephthah story.
I think the Jephthah story, for me, like I'm fascinated with people learning to read the Bible and to teach the Bible and that kind of a thing. And I feel like that Jephthah story is such a good story to use to help people understand of, okay, you have this really bad situation that seems absolutely horrible, like the whole human sacrifice thing. When then you really kind of
you kind of peel the layers back.
Peel the layers back, you realize, oh, this doesn't mean that. I'm insinuating it, but when I look back across all of Scripture and the larger character of God, I realize that there's just no way this is a real thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that story, I kind of want to go back and spend more time on Gideon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because all the back and forth things. I don't know. Judges, I would never say Judges is a favorite book of mine. It's been an easy book of mine. But now I want to go back in more.
That back and forth between Gideon and God, trying to constantly just be reassured that, this is God and He's going to help him out. I mean, that's a pretty interesting dynamic just to look into because
well, this is, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I need you to keep on doing this. I need you to keep on doing this. And we didn't even really talk about in that story, the second half of Gideon, of his kids not following him and him doing all this stupid stuff. And so the Gideon story is just...
Any excuse to listen to the My Morning Jacket song, honestly, I'll take it. So,
Yeah, it's just cool. So what are you looking forward to with these next 2 stories? I feel like we've teased the power of these next 2 stories a lot.
I hope we haven't overhyped them, but yeah, I'm just excited to. This is one of those moments during the show that I like a lot, where we can just really talk and be real and this was bad. We can just really be this was all. I mean, this was a low point.
Yeah,
in this story.
And I'm because I kind of went through quick the other day, and I want to go back through because some of the Bible scholars, the commentators, whatever you want to call them, the way they talk about Judges, it's not necessarily in chronological order. Us in the 21st century Western world, the kind of 1, 2, 3, 4 side of things, we think everything's in chronological order. But I know at least the first story, there's some things that it talks about to where you realize, okay, this is not at the end of this story. This is probably more at the beginning. So what kind of story is it telling? I really want to, this is going to be probably a very classic Bible as metal conversation. I really want to dig into the concubine thing.
We're going to dig into the concubine thing. Don't worry, that's going to happen.
Well, it's just because it's just like the human sacrifice thing in the Jephthah story.
Yeah.
It's so far outside of the character of God and His people, and then you have a Levite, which should be a fun conversation talking about the difference between the priests and the Levites. That'll be a cool conversation, because these next 2 stories just kind of dig into that. What else are you looking forward to? Or what parts of these 2 stories of the conversations are you excited about?
I'm excited about the concubine thing. I'm sorry, I hate to admit it, but I'm excited to go into detail about that because we've just been, we've been joking like, all of Judges is just a lead up to this story.
So you're talking about the story. You're not talking about the actual idea of what.
Yeah, I was talking about the story, but the idea of going into just like you said, delving into like the concubine thing about how it's so far away from God's character. I mean, I'm pretty excited to talk about that.
And Meredith, my wife, who's in the back, is the one who told me years ago that I'm never allowed to preach on the Levite and the concubine story because she said it's terribly inappropriate for church.
It is, which it is.
Yeah, it kind of is.
To a certain extent.
But it's completely appropriate for the Bible as metal.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, me and Grahm are going to go see the Dead and Company tonight.
Yes.
We're going to eat some barbecue in the Deep Ellum.
Yes.
We're going to go to Buc-ee's.
Yes, yes.
And then we're going to drive back tomorrow with Meredith, hiding in the back. So thanks for tuning in. Leave us some questions down there in the bar because we're excited about these last two stories. So go read them. Go read them. Go get pumped for the two metalist parts of the Bible is metal, I think. So
I'd say so.
yeah, awesome.
All right.
See you later.